Hare Krishna, Namaste. When we have good devotee association in this world, when we have so many holy waters in this world, when we have so many temples in this world, when we have a lot of service opportunities in this world, when we have beautiful, attractive deities in this world, when we have the most compassionate, merciful acharyas, gurus in this world, then why we need to aspire to go back to the spiritual world? We get everything here in this world. It is also said the temples here are non-different than Vaikuntham. Kaveri Virajaseyam Vaikuntham Rangamandiram Sa Vasudevo Rangesha Pratyaksham Paramam Padam Vimanam Pranavakaram Vedasungam Mahadbhutam Sri Rangeshayi Bhagavan Pranavartam Prakasaka. That is, the river Kaveri is the very same Viraja Nadi that flows in Sri Vaikuntham, which divides the material world and the spiritual world. The temple Sri Rangam is Vaikuntham itself, the abode of Vishnu. The Lord of Sri Rangam is none other than Vasudeva himself, who resides in Sri Vaikuntham. The Vimanam is in the form of Pranavakaram, the life-sustaining mantra. The towers are like the Vedas, and that Lord who is lying inside the altar, Sri Rangasai, is the import, the meaning of the Pranavam. The sloka clearly says Sri Rangam is Vaikuntham. The Lord who is lying there in Sri Rangam is the same Lord who is in Vaikuntham. The river Kaveri on the both sides is the Viraja river that runs in the Vaikuntha. This is about Sri Rangam. Whereas Sparshana Devadat Chetram Niram Mukti Pradayakam Yatra Sakshat Param Brahma Bhati Dharava Leelaya Api Janma Sathai Sagre Duritachara Tat Paraha Kshetrasmin Sangamatrena Jayate Vishnuna Saha. The holy place of Sri Kshetra Dhama, that is Jagannath Puri, Nilachala, where the supreme truth is present in a wooden form, bestows liberation upon all men who simply touch it. Even if someone has been dedicated to sinful behavior for hundreds of lives, by merely coming in contact with this holy place, he will take birth in the company of Lord Vishnu. Next, Krishnasyochai Pranaya Vasati Preyasebhyopi Radha Kundam Chasya Munibir Abitas Tadrik Eva Vedhai Yat Preyaster Abi Alam Asulabam Kim Punar Bhakti Bhajam Tat Premedam Sakritapi Saraha Santur Avikshkaroti. This is the last sloka in Sri Upadeshamrita, that is Nectar of Instruction by Srila Rupa Goswami, which says, of many objects of favored delight and of all the lovable damsels of Vrajabhumi, Srimati Radharani is certainly the most treasured object of Krishna's love. And in every respect, her divine Kunda is described by great sages as similarly dear to him. Undoubtedly, Radha Kunda is a very rarely attained even by the great devotees. Therefore, it is even more difficult for ordinary devotees to attain. If one simply bathes once within those holy waters, one's pure love of Krishna is fully aroused. Some of these slokas are quoted here to justify and support the question that has been raised here. When we have these holy dhams, when we have the holy rivers, when we have the holy association of devotees, when we have the deities When we have the service to do, why even bother to go back to the spiritual world? Why can't we stay here and relish what we have here? Now let's see few reasons why we don't want to stay here, besides the reasons that this place is terrible, it is temporary, our consciousness are polluted, I want to escape from this material world, I am not a great devotee who can stay here and face the problems and still continue my bhakti, unalloyed bhakti. Maya is very strong. We have turned our face away from Krishna. All these are very reasonable answers. Now let's see in a different angle, more on a positive terms. When we want to teach something to our children, it is always better to tell the positive than the negative. When they know the benefit of why they are doing, they will get more inspired to do than just talking about the difficulties in doing things. By you studying now, you will be well situated in your life in near future. You will be able to do things as you wanted. This is one way of teaching the children. Another way is better you study, otherwise you will suffer. There will be no one to look after you after we die. No one will respect you. Like this, we can keep on adding many negative things, but the child is not going to understand much because they only look for some benefits from enjoyment. Therefore, better to tell them about the ultimate benefit and then slowly talk about how to achieve that and how to deal the challenges to achieve that. In that approach, now let's see what is that we will gain by attaining the spiritual world. The reasons why we don't want to stay in this world, we want to go back to spiritual world. Reason 1. It is true, the temple is holy, the waters are holy, the deities are holy, they are literal incarnation of the Lord. It is true, we have many saintly gurus. It is true, we have devotees association. Everything is true. Everything is correct. But because we are in this body, Sharira, which is made of Prakriti, that means the three modes, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, influence will continue as long as we are in this body until the time of death. We are driven by the three modes all the time. No one is an exception. Because we are driven by the three modes, those holy things which are made avail for us cannot be fully utilized in this world. Another point, since we are in this body and we are in this world, our activities are all driven by Kala, the time factor. That means anything which starts has an end. We start a service, it will have an end time. We will not be in a position to continuously do any services. In the spiritual world, that is not the case. Because time doesn't have its role in the spiritual world. And in the spiritual world, it is all Shuddha Sattvam. There is no a trace of Rajoguna or Tamoguna. There is no start time of a service and there is no end time of the service. The service continues without a break, without the influence of time, without the influence of the three modes. Now let's see the second reason. By staying in this world, we are actually taking service from the Lord. Instead of we serving the Lord, we are assigning service to the Lord to do it for us. Let's see how. We must understand that the Lord loves his devotees. He is much concerned about those devotees who are away from him than those devotees who are close in proximity with him. like Garuda, Anantasesha, Vishvakshena, and many other Nityatmas, those who are eternally situated in the spiritual world. Like a parent who has many children, but one of their child is living abroad, even though the parent equally loves all the children, but their attention, their desire would be always wanting to have that son who's living abroad back home along with their other children. So the Lord's heart is always pulled towards those devotees who are in this world. Therefore, He takes steps to descend into this world for those children. That is, all of us. The Lord who would have been happily in the spiritual world, because of us, He has to come down. Which means, instead of we going to Him, we are making Him to come down to us. In simple words, instead of we going there and serving Him, we are asking Him to come here to serve us. One may say, no, it is me who is serving the deities, but then you were the cause for Him to come here in the deity form. Rather, if you had gone there, He wouldn't have come here. The only reason He comes down into this world to satisfy His devotees and take His devotees back to the spiritual abode. And that is the reason why He is present in deity form in many temples, in many forms, in many colors, in many ways. In some temples, He is in standing pose. In some temple, He is in sitting pose. In some temple, He is lying down. In some temple, He is alone. In some temple, He is with Radharani. In some temple, He is with His brother Balaram. In some temples, He is with Rukmini Satyabhama. In some temples, He is with all the Ashtasakis along with Radharani. In some temples, He is alone by Himself. And in some temples, He is with yellow garments. In some temples, He is with white garments. In some temples, He is with lot of ornaments. In some temples, He is wearing crown. In some temple, He is wearing turban. In some temples, He is with His four-hand form. In some temple, He is with His two-hand form. In some temple, He simply blesses. In some temple, He plays flute. All these are just to simply attract us, hoping that in one way or the other, we fall in love with Him and bring us to a point where His devotees cannot live without Him for a moment, cannot waste time simply in eating, sleeping, any recreation, etc. If one has to live here, one has to eat, one has to sleep, one has to do so many other activities, even to do one's devotional service properly, which means we do take breaks in between to take care of certain things for ourselves besides our service. So our service is interrupted. But there in the spiritual world, there's no such interruption at all. We don't need to take breaks to eat, sleep, or any recreation. No need of power nap. No need to go for massage therapy because we are exhausted by doing continuous service. No need of any treatments. There is no need for us to divide our time between temple and family. So that is the second reason. Now let's see the third reason why it is a great benefit for us to be in the spiritual world. In this world, we can do only one given service at a time. If I have to wash pots in the temple kitchen, then I cannot get pulled or engage into serving prasadam to the devotees. At the same time, if I have to do kirtan during harati, then I cannot be engaged in the deity worship doing harati at the same time. But in the spiritual world, that is not at all a concern. I can do any number of services parallelly by taking any number of spiritual bodies. I can sing, I can mop the floor, I can cook for the Lord, everything at same time. Not only that, here if I have to do some services, then I must have a human body. Unless and until I have this human body, I will not be able to perform services. I can't do anything different than what human can do. If I have to offer a flower to the Lord, then I have to get the flower from the garden or from the shop. If I want to apply sandal paste on the lotus feet of the Lord, then I have to grind the sandal wood to get the paste and then apply it on the Lord's feet. If I have to feed the Lord with sumptuous bhoga, then I have to cook something and I have to offer it to the Lord. That means I am different from the flower. I am different from the sandalwood. I am different from the bhoga, the sweet. But in the spiritual world, not only that we can take many number of bodies to serve the Lord, we can also take different types of bodies. I can become a jasmine flower for the pleasure of the Lord. I can become a peacock to dance and give joy to the Lord. I can become a sweet which Krishna can consume and give pleasure to the Lord. But in this world, I cannot become a peacock, I cannot become a jasmine flower, I cannot become a sweet, at least in this lifetime. But all these are possible in the spiritual world. One can take any number of bodies, one can take any type of bodies, one can take any number of services simultaneously, whereas all those are limited in this world. Over there, service opportunity has no limits. That's the third reason. Let's see the fourth reason. In this world, my senses has some limitations. I can do certain things with certain senses, not beyond that. My nose can only smell. My eyes can only see. My ears can only hear. My skin can only touch. My sense of nose cannot taste the prasadam. My sense of nose cannot see the beautiful form of the Lord. My sense of nose cannot hear the beautiful pastimes of the Lord. My sense of nose cannot feel the touch of the Lord. That means each senses lack the other sense functionality. Those days we had a phone which is used for only making calls. We then had calculator to calculate numbers. We then had computers for running some applications. Then we had internet to browse the web. We also had something called a music device like iPod or something where one can upload musics into that and then carry that. Then we had video devices where we can watch dramas, movies, etc. That means those days the phone can only make calls but cannot listen to audio musics. The audio music device can only play music but cannot browse. But now everything is in one device called smartphone. We can make calls, we can run numbers, we can browse, we can install application, and many things can be done in one device, which is very handy. So when a devotee attains the topmost love for Godhead, he feels terrible about these five senses because they lack the function of other senses. The devotee wants his eyes to see the Lord, his mouth to see the Lord, his nose to see the Lord, his ears to see the Lord, his skins to see the Lord. He wants his eyes to taste the prasadam of the Lord. He wants his nose to taste the prasadam of the Lord. He wants his ears to taste the prasadam of the Lord. He wants his eyes to hear the pastimes of the Lord. He wants his nose to hear the pastimes of the Lord. He wants his mouth to hear the pastimes of the Lord. That means he becomes spiritually greedy. He is not satisfied at all with what he has. Therefore, only option for him to attain what he wanted is to go to the spiritual world, where he can do what he wanted. So to summarize, in the spiritual world, our services are not interrupted by time. We are not influenced by the three modes. Number 2, we want to go to the spiritual world and serve the Lord. By staying here, the Lord is forced to descend into the world. The third reason is, at any time in this world, we can only do one service, whereas in the spiritual world, we can do multiple services in multiple forms at the same given time. The fourth reason is, my senses has limited functions here. If I want to fully experience the Lord, then each of my senses should be able to do the function of the other senses, which is not possible in this world. Therefore, for that reason, we have to go back to the spiritual world. Now that we learned the advantage of going back to the spiritual world, there's one last question which needs to be addressed. That is, what about Hanuman? Was Hanuman not aware of all these reasons to refuse the offer given by Lord Rama to go to Vaikuntha? Answer is, Hanuman is well aware of the differences between spiritual world and the material world. He knows how difficult this material world is. But he did say to Lord Rama, Sneho me paramo rajan stvai nityam pratishtitaha bhaktischa niyata vira bhavo nanyatra gacchati. My dear Lord, my dear Rama, my love for you is very deep, very great, very firmly planted in you. My bhakti is unflinching and steady. I cannot think of going anywhere else, leaving this world where you accepted me and captured my heart. Hanuman is a great jnani, great bhakta. He certainly knows the difficulties here in the material world and the advantages in the spiritual world. But when he measured the greatness of going to Vaikuntha and being with Lord Narayana, who sits on a high throne with one leg folded on the seat and another one placed down, who will be surrounded by his consorts and many servants serving him, and all the Nityatmas and Muktatmas praising his glories by chanting the Vedic hymns. Hanuman would be standing somewhere watching all this thing in Vaikuntha, which he was not very much keen to experience that when he compares to Rama's beautiful form that he had here in this world. Therefore, when Lord Ramachandra told Hanuman that I am going to leave this world, you also come along with me. But Hanuman said, my dear Lord, I am not interested to come to Vaikuntha. I would like to stay here. Then Rama asked, why? Hanuman said, can you please tell me, what do I get in Vaikuntha? Rama said, everyone over there will be in full joy, in Ananda. It's a total happiness in Vaikuntha. Let's go. Then Hanuman asked, will there be Rama Nama Japa going on in Vaikuntha? Lord Rama said, well, that ends here. Then Hanuman asked, what about recitation of Ramayana? That ends here too. Then Hanuman said, kindly my lord, forgive me. I can't be in a place where Ramayana has not been recited. I can't be in a place where Rama Nama not being chanted. Rather, I will live here and immerse myself in chanting and hearing your glories. Therefore, whenever there is a Ramayana Katha happens, they keep a small seat next to the speaker for Hanuman to come and sit and hear the Ramayana recitation. Wherever there is Ramayana Katha happens, Hanuman sits there attentively hearing with full of tears. Yatra yatra Raghunatha Kirtanam Tatra Tatra Kritamastakhanchalim Bhaspavari Paripurna Lochanam Marudim Namata Rakshasantakam. That's a degree, highest degree of devotion that Hanuman had towards chanting and hearing of Lord's names and glories. And to that great devotee, Hanuman, let us offer our obeisances at his lotus feet, begging for a drop of his bhakti to bestow upon us. Manojavam Mariditulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimadam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanara Yuda Mukyam Sri Ramadutam Sirasa Namami.